What's up, guys? Welcome back to TMD Sports. Today, we are talking about Craig Conroy and the Calgary Flames. We're going to talk about everything that he's kind of done and kind of evaluate how good of a GM he's really been for the Calgary Flames since he took over from Brad Treliving a couple years ago. Let's get right into it. I am here with Maggie.
How's it going, everyone?
And I'm gonna throw it to you to start here, just to get the ball rolling. How do you feel about? We'll start with trades that Craig Conroy's maybe made.
Sure. I think, in the short time that Craig Conroy has been a GM in this league, I think he's shown that he's a pretty shrewd trader. I think it's probably pretty easy for other teams to take advantage of a young GM's inexperience, rather. And sort of force them into bad deals, get them to panic because of all of the crazy things that happen, in the day-to-day life of an NHL GM. But I think Conroy has handled it really well right from the very beginning. I think he's a very shrewd trader. I think one of his best traits as a trader is his patience. I think he's done a really good job to this point of, not panicking into making a trade until he's sure he's gotten, some assets that he thinks is worth it in return. And so I think that's been a really great, trait of his. And
yeah. And I think it also helps too that sorry to cut you off.
No worries.
It's kind of a thing where he kind of got given a pretty bad hand to start. The Flames were
100%
all their prospects. They traded all their draft picks for trades that could have been bad. You traded Monahan and a first round pick to Montreal.
Don't remind me.
Monahan turned out good.
Yeah.
Brad Living, especially now looking at what he's doing in Toronto now,
yeah,
has kind of shown that he can make the big move, but is he taking the best deal? Or, is he being good at making sure his assets are fine? I don't really think he did that a whole lot. Sure, we were contending, but I don't think we were close enough to a Stanley Cup that we should have been throwing so many first-round picks and everything out there for players that might have played in your top six, but could also be death pieces. I didn't really appreciate that.
100%, yeah.
Craig Conroy's really turned it around, and now we have all these assets and all these picks that we can potentially use for the future. We have centers up the wazoo. There's so many.
Out of nowhere. It's crazy.
A lot of them. And then you have Gavin McKenna potentially coming up here, and Vegas is kind of plummeting a little bit. So
please.
Who knows if maybe Vegas doesn't make the playoffs and they can jump up. We can have 2 top 10 picks or something.
Oh my God! Can you imagine? Holy!
It's been good for Craig Conroy. I think he's been able to trade to kind of win now and kind of for the future, all in one. So he can still have leaders. And he can still have players that. Like a Farabee or a Frost that you're taking a bet on, but they're still older, so they can still lead the team going forward. So it kind of allows them to now have all these assets for the future and at the current at the same time and have them all go together, because he's been doing really well at making trades for 25, 26-year-olds instead of making them for 29 to 30-year-olds if they want to make a buying move.
100%. Yeah, no, it's really easy, I think, to fall into the trap of seeing a little bit of success. You might have a plan, a date on which, a year or a season where you think, now we're going to be, contenders. But then you see, a little bit of success and you're like, oh, hold on, maybe we got something here. Maybe we're a little ahead of schedule. Let's go all in. And then that's when you start trading for all the old guys, and that can turn really bad on you really quick. I think Conroy's done a really incredible job at sticking to his plan through some admittedly really difficult times, and also through some success like that the Flames saw last season, where they came just incredibly close to making a playoff spot. It would have been really easy for a more reactive GM to see the kind of success that the Flames were having. They were clearly in the mix. It would have been really easy to go out and get someone that could have, pushed them into the playoffs, and it probably would have worked, but it would have, been sacrificing the plan that they have. They want to be contenders in a couple of years down the road. They want to make sure, that if they're acquiring players, that they fit that timeline, and of course they want to get a whole bunch of picks as well to kind of build that future.
Yeah, and you definitely want to make sure you're trading for players that potentially want to be here. Like, you're trading for Ryan Strome, who loves Calgary and has a lot of friends here. So he's ready to be here. He's ready to be a good veteran for this team. So you're getting a lot of players in that actually want to be here, which is kind of weird to think about considering the Tkachuk and Gaudreau trades that kind of had to happen there. So it kind of makes it interesting that we can kind of just get all in these assets that actually want to be here. Coronado's extension was huge for us. And Wolves just have Americans re-sign here after the stigma of, Americans don't want to play in Calgary or Canada in general, for that matter. So it's kind of nice to have a GM that seems like he has his players in his plan, and he's going to have them along the way with him as he does it, and he's going to tell all these players what the plan is going forward, and we can get good deals going forward and still be able to win in that window that's not that far away.
Totally. Yeah. No kidding. As a Calgary fan, it's hard not to feel a little bit traumatized from, Adam Fox and the Gaudreau, the Tkachuk situation. It's been, sorry, I just had a buzz on my phone there. It's hard not to feel a little traumatized, between Adam Fox and Johnny Gaudreau and Matthew Tkachuk, and having all these players leaving, to go to the U.S. And so maybe it's just the fan in me speaking, but it does feel like there's been such an emphasis on making sure that players want to be here, and that definitely makes me feel good as a fan.
Well, I also think that him being able to make trades for these guys that are vets who are not asking out, but you're asking them if they want to be traded, and they're now saying, here, this is the team I want to go to, and making it right by them also helps him a lot as a GM, because other players are going to want to potentially come here. They see that everyone loves the GM and Craig Conroy, and everyone's saying, the Flames organization did so well for us where we were able to go where we wanted to go, and we love them. So the more players that are saying that kind of helps us a lot too. And, Kadri said it, and I think I saw Matthew Tkachuk say it a couple years ago as well. So it's nice to have, I guess that was Brad Tree Living, but, that kind of reputation.
Yeah, for sure. I think, Kadri's a pretty, fairly prominent player in the league, and he probably has some sway among the players in the league. So I'd imagine that, that probably does a lot of good for the team's reputation, for sure.
Well, and that's just it, too. Like, these players who did not say they wanted to be traded, they were in a tough situation, but they still wanted to battle it out. Like, Kadri didn't really want to leave. Like, sure, there's rumors out there that he wanted to go to Montreal and all that, but, you have him here, and he wants to be here, and he's down to kind of go forward with the team and help these young guys until the point where we're basically telling him that we should probably trade you. Then he's kind of saying, okay, I'm okay with that now. But, it's nice to have these players that are super happy to be here, and it's nice after seeing people be like, nah, the Flames organization sucks for basically 2 years straight.
100%. Yeah. No, it's it does feel like there's a strong culture that he's building. It really does seem like the team despite, having a really probably painful season. I don't think anyone likes losing as much as the Flames have been losing this season. But it feels like, that I certainly am not getting the sense that the team is falling apart or there's any kind of locker room problems or anything like that. And I think that really speaks to, the kind of culture that the Flames, ownership group, or the Flames management group has really fostered here. We could probably get into, some more of the details here, right?
Yeah, like you. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just we were talking about the plan. That's really been, how many times in interviews has Conroy talked about the plan and how important it is to stick to his plan and the timelines and all of that. I think, it's obviously the first step. There is you need to do a good job of actually getting something out of your pending free agents. And I think, you can have conversations about, whether Noah Hannafin should have been traded before he got, before it got to the point that it did, or whatever. But it certainly hasn't gotten to the point that we have seen in the past, where, a player like a Johnny Gaudreau makes it to free agency and you don't get anything in return for him. So trades like the Lindholm trade, the Hannafin trade that I just mentioned, the Rasmus Anderson trade, making sure that you get something in return for those players is really important, and he's certainly gotten some nice pieces in return.
Yeah, I think he's done a fantastic job with his returns. Like being able to bring in not only a person that can play for us in the future and a prospect, but you're also just getting a bevy of picks that honestly, like I didn't think Mackenzie Weegar was going to be worth 3 second-round picks. I thought he was going to be maybe 1 second-round pick or a first-round pick and a third-round pick or something like that, where it wasn't straight up 3 seconds. I mean, it's very rare that a team even has 3 seconds all in the same year. So we got a little bit lucky with that. But I think being able to bring in all these great like all these young defensemen, I won't say great, but all these defensemen. Flames make the deal for Othman, a nice left winger that can come in and kind of prove himself. For Battaglia, who was hurt a lot and was having a pretty bad season in Medicine Hat before he got hurt. So it's kind of nice to be able to... He's taking chances on these first-round picks and these third- or fourth-round picks that are players that, can now come here and potentially prove themselves and show that, on a team like the Rangers where there's absolutely no space for a left wing whatsoever, you can now bring him here and see if maybe he can play on your top four. I mean, he definitely can. I think he's a talented enough player to be playing for us right now. And you're getting trades like that where you're not only bringing in picks that are going to help us for the future, but you're also bringing in assets that we can use right now to still have a farm system if the people in the future also aren't good enough. So I think Conroy does a great job of being able to have that balance of when to pick up a vet or when to pick up somebody who's young in a trade.
Yeah, definitely. I do feel like that's a great opportunity that can be taken advantage of in this kind of stage of a team's life cycle where you are in the process of bottoming out, let's be real. And that gives, a lot of players who, may have been overlooked or didn't get the greatest chance to prove their worth. Calgary is a place you can come to try and prove that you can make it in the NHL. You can be a top 6 center or winger or a top 4 D-man, all those kinds of things. I think having that sort of reputation is a great way to, sort of build that that sort of environment where guys, really feel like there's something in it for them for earning their spot.
Yeah, and I think that's huge for the Flames in general, especially because their GM, or not their GM, sorry, their owner is crazy and wants to be buying all the time and pushing forward. So good on Craig Conroy to just be like, no, I'm doing my thing. You hired me. I'm going to rebuild this team. That's what I want to do. Like, I think that's huge for a GM to be able to do that. And it's getting, like, picks like the Zadorov trade a couple years ago for a 2024 fifth and a 2026 third. Like, Zadorov is not worth that because we finessed Vancouver there a little bit by having two great picks for a player that you probably would have been able to get in free agency. Granted, they didn't. He went to Boston. But picking up picks for players that you probably wouldn't have expected to get that kind of a return. So he's milking everybody.
100%. I mean, the Kuzmenko and Peltier for Frost and Farabee trade still kind of blows my mind in hindsight. Peltier had already been placed on waivers at the beginning part of that season, and the slump that Kuzmenko was in at the time, I would have thought you would have had to pay someone to take either of those guys. And yet we send them both off to Philly, and we get Frost and Farabee, who were two guys that were, struggling, needed a change of scenery. And for their first season, they weren't super impressive. Even at the time, though, admittedly, we already could tell that Conroy had won that trade because Kuzmenko ended up going off to LA, and Peltier, I think, is still kind of down in the AHL somewhere. I'm not sure where he's ended up now.
I think he's in the Tampa Bay farm system right now, or he's playing one of the two, but he's in Tampa now. He's not even in Philly anymore.
Well, yeah, right. And so even then, before we kind of saw the emergence of Frost and Farabee, if you want to call it that, this season. I think even before that, we felt that he had won that trade, and now it's just getting even sweeter this season with Frost and Farabee. They are both, as of tonight, March 20th, after the game against the Florida Panthers, they are both tied for the team lead in goals with 16. Now, 16 goals near the end of the season is not a great number to be tied for the lead in, but the fact that they are tied, they are two of the best scorers on this team right now, really speaks to Conroy's ability to scout those sorts of guys.
Yeah, I mean, even looking at the Rasmus Andersson trade, it's honestly looking pretty good now. Like,
no kidding.
The Golden Knights have looked awful since Rasmus Andersson got traded there, and they're potentially now with an unprotected. Well, I think they are protected, aren't they? They're top 10 protection on that pick, I think. This
season's pick, you mean? Or sorry, this is the Anderson trade. That's next season.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, that one's protected. I'm pretty sure.
Yes, it must be. Yeah.
And then the second conditional, where it's like if they win the Stanley Cup and it's not this other pick, I can't even remember the team, but like. Crazy first round pick.
Of course,
yeah. That trade's looking great. White Cloud's been able to come in here and also be a good piece for the team. I mean, I know he got hurt recently, but
no, I mean, it seems like White Cloud has fit in fabulously. Everyone's super happy with him. He's been playing great. Definitely the kind of piece that you want, over the next couple of years as the Flames start to try and turn the corner and head on back on the upwards trajectory again. That's a great guy to have, in that kind of veteran leadership role.
And there's so many trades like this that he's already made, like the Kevin Ball trade. He's been great, and you took a bet on him.
Yeah, you had to make a space for Dustin Wolf, so you had to send off Jacob Markstrom, and you get this awesome defenseman, in return in Kevin Ball, which has been awesome. And then, hey, not just Kevin Ball, but you get that New Jersey first round pick, which has turned into Cole Reshny. Of course, Cole Reshny hasn't hit the NHL yet, but he's having a hell of a season down in the NCAA. So that's even sweeter.
It's nice to have these players get traded for that can come in and help now, but you're still being able to build through the draft and signing like people like Kevin Rooney type of players that can come in and help the team a little bit, but not have, the pressure of being a top six player or anything like that. So
Yeah.
to have those balance between all three is really nice to have, and I think that Craig's done a great job at that.
So I think one thing that has really heightened my enthusiasm for the direction that Conroy is taking this team in was the Mackenzie Weegar trade. I think I for the past couple of years, since Conroy took over, I've been really impressed with all of the things that we've talked about up to this point. His trading, his drafting, which we can get into a little bit more in a little bit if we want to, and sort of in a vacuum, he seems to have all of the skills that a good GM in the NHL needs to have. And so I've been very, happy with what he's done so far. But I've admittedly been a little bit confused up until recently about the direction of the team overall. It seemed for a little while like the team was going for sort of like a Dallas Stars approach, where you just get a million billion late first round picks and you kind of turn it around that way without having that big star player. And so it sort of seemed like that was the approach, the retool, if you want to call it that, where you don't, fully bottom out and try to get the game-changing superstar that can lead you to a Stanley Cup. And so, I was like, okay, it seemed, Dallas is a good team. It looks like they're moving in the right direction, certainly. But it did sort of look for a little while like they didn't exactly know overall what they were doing. Craig Conroy was always talking about, his the plan, of course, and not trading for anyone above, that was going to be outside of the contending window. But it still seemed a little bit, I don't want to say wishy-washy, but it was kind of in the middle. It was a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and it never quite seemed like there was like they really committed to one direction. And I think that all changed when Mackenzie Weegar got traded to Utah ahead of the trade deadline this season. I think that really solidified, for me at least, that this is a true rebuild. That is a rebuilding move. After already trading Rasmus Andersson, you then also trade Mackenzie Weegar, and you leave behind a defensive group that is headlined by Kevin Ball, who we love, and Zach Whiteclad, who we love. But those being your two best defensemen, that is something that a true rebuilding team does. And so maybe, we can get into, how much was this influenced by ownership, how much was Conroy not allowed to, truly commit to this true rebuild until, the ownership saw, just how bad this season was going to be. But I think since we traded Mackenzie Weegar, I think that's really, it's doubled my enthusiasm for Craig Conroy, because now not only has he done all of these amazing things that we've talked about, all the trades, all of the drafting, but it now seems like if you want to say the ownership has allowed him to fully go all in on his vision.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Like, obviously, we're not going to obviously like point blank say that's what's happening.
Of course,
I wouldn't be surprised if Craig Conroy, during that time where he's kind of in the between section, where he's halfway rebuilding, halfway trying to win, I think the owner and the higher ups on this team are probably in his ear being like, hey, you can't say that we're rebuilding 'cause that's not what we want to do. You have to make sure that we're telling them that we're trying to win because that is what we want to do. We want to make money before we get this new arena so we can bring in a team that can compete once we get into that arena. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what he's telling him to do. And then finally, Craig Conroy finally convinced him to be like, hey, it's time to rebuild. And he finally threw in the towel and allowed this Kadri trade to go through.
It really feels like now. I mean, obviously, we're still on the arrow is still pointing downwards, and it will probably still be pointing downwards until at least the end of next season, if we're being honest with ourselves. But my hopes are pointing upwards, and so I have just so much hope for the future of this organization. I have immense trust in Craig Conroy to get us there, and I'm excited about the future. Gavin McKenna, please.
It's almost nice to have a rebuild for this team, honestly. Like, it's been for the last decade and a half of us just being this mediocre to good team that can dominate, make it to the playoffs, and then somehow crash and burn come the second round. So it's kind of nice to be able to have this rebuild that we are finally getting. It feels like it's been forever since we've had a rebuild, and I feel happy about it, and I feel confident about it because we have somebody like Craig Conroy coming in who is trading for these really good players that honestly probably should have gone higher. Like, I think Reggie was probably a top 15 pick if you look at it now. So it's kind of really nice to be able to have a rebuilding Calgary Flames for once because it's feeling like mediocrity for so long. So it's nice that Craig Conroy's finally convinced management.
Definitely, yeah. And I've done a lot of tankathon watching, a lot of standings watching in the last couple of months. I'll admit that, but even if the Flames fall out of a top 2 pick, even if they can't get their hands on a Gavin McKenna or an Ivar Stenberg, something like that, which I would be very sad about. Even in that, kind of unfortunate case, I think, I trust in Craig. He's gonna pick a great player for us. I trust a lot in our scouting department to pick the right player. And next season, when we probably have another high pick, I trust them to pick another great player. And just the track record. I think in summation, Craig Conroy is doing a great job as the GM of the Calgary Flames.
Yeah, I think he's done a great job, even with his drafting, being able to bring in the 28th pick and pick somebody like Gridden, who's going to come in and be a huge sniper for us going forward. Hansek a couple years ago, a kind of bigger body that's going to be able to roam the center position and just take over games sometimes if he wants to. You get Suniev in the third round. You get a bunch of players that you're making bets on through making trades that you didn't only get draft picks from, that you can also build for the future now and everything like that. So you just keep making all these great picks, and honestly, a lot of them have seemingly hit when it comes to the scheme of what's going on in the future. Like, Wettenbach has looked unbelievable since playing for the Stampede. It's crazy. It's super nice to see these prospects come in. Stockselius is a prospect I didn't think I'd be excited about, but now I'm excited about. It's unbelievable. I think Craig Conroy's done an amazing job at being able to build this team pretty much from the ground up now.
Yeah, it's crazy what having that sort of management group can do to you as a fan. Like, yeah, now every time I'm watching to the end of the draft and I'm keeping tabs on all these 5th round, 6th round, 7th round picks, and now all of a sudden it feels like all of them are gonna be on this team in 5 years. It's pretty amazing what he's been able to do so far.
Yeah, we have crazy depth for years and years to come. Man.
Absolutely. And we've got
And Jacob
about
LPA is your best prospect. Not amazing.
and we've got about 3 billion picks in the first 3 rounds of the next couple of years, and so just imagine how many more awesome prospects are going to be in this system in the next couple of years. It's going to be really exciting.
Yeah, you gotta hope for Gavin McKenna and then Larry Dupont next year.
Please.
That'd be the dream.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it sounds like we've covered everything.
I think we've answered the question.
I think we've answered the question that we both think that Craig Conroy has done a fantastic job in the role of being the GM of the Calgary Flames. You know, it kind of makes me... This conversation alone makes me want to go through every single GM and just talk about...
We could try. We wouldn't be able to talk about... I wouldn't be able to talk about any of them in nearly as much depth as we've gone into in this now 30-minute long recording session. But we sure could.
Yeah, so I think, this is the first one back, so we're going to see how it goes. But, hey, we're going to keep grinding, keep making videos, and hopefully we can talk about a bunch of NHL stuff that you guys really didn't really think about discussion-wise type of thing.
100%, yeah. Subscribe.